Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the launch of Sinister Wisdom's 2025 calendar. So excited to share this with everyone in our community. My name is Julie Enzer, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this evening's event and conversation about the 2025 calendar. This is our first gathering post-US election, and I just want to acknowledge that we're all living in the aftermath of that, and many people having deep and profound feelings. I've been having lots of conversations about it with people. And so I thank you for joining us this evening in the midst of processing everything that's going on in our world politically, and for gathering together with Sinister Wisdom and supporting us in the work that we're trying to do. I know that our work is as important as it ever was, and that in these times, we all need one another. Before we begin, we do spend a moment as a land acknowledgement. And this moment has, for now over a year, been particularly potent as we look at war in the Middle East. I'm mindful of the many layers of conflict in Israel and Palestine, and I know many of us at this time mourn the loss of life, the continued occupation of the Palestinian people by Israel, and ongoing war and conflict, not only in the Middle East, but in other places around the world. As we pause for land acknowledgement, I also want to ask us to raise our voices for peace. In the United States and around the world, many of us live on occupied, unceded land. I am in what is now called Dover, Florida, the traditional homelands and territories of the Seminole. I invite everyone to insert into the chat your location and acknowledge the land on which you live, or that where you are right now, as we pause to recognize the histories of war and colonization, and more importantly, to imagine and work for a world where we all have a more fair and equitable distribution of resources, a world where we can find ways to honor one another and live together in peace. We have an hour-long celebration planned this evening of the 2025 calendar. We'll wrap up around 8 o'clock on the East Coast, including time for our traditional dance number at the end. I usually start with a little advertisement about Sinister Wisdom. I know, looking at the room, many of you are very familiar with Sinister Wisdom, but if you're not, we are a quarterly journal of lesbian literature and art. Sinister Wisdom started in 1976 at one of the peaks of the women in print movement, and we've been publishing consistently since then. Our current issue is Sinister Wisdom 134, Lives of Common Lesbians. If you're a subscriber, you should already have your copy. If you're not a subscriber and you subscribe today or in the next few weeks, you'll receive a copy as a part of your subscription. As a bonus for the calendar, if you sign up as a monthly sustainer, which sets you up to receive a subscription for as little as $3 a month, we'll send you a free copy of the calendar along with the current issue of Sinister Wisdom. So I invite everyone to do that. Also, because you're here, I like to give a special preview of things. Going in the mail very soon to everyone is the new edition of Minnie Bruce Pratt's book, S/HE. It's a beautiful new edition. This book has been out of print for more than a decade. It's a bonus to all of our Sinister Wisdom subscribers, and also available for sale wherever books are sold, beginning December 5th of this year. I'm really excited to share Minnie Bruce Pratt's S/HE with our community. She and I were working on the book when she died. So while it's very sad that she is not here to celebrate the publication with us, it is great that her work is continuing to live on. Finally, I appreciate all of the lesbians right now who are lifting up and supporting the work of Sinister Wisdom. And I particularly want to acknowledge the founder, the person who came to me with the gleam in her eye of doing a calendar, Sarah Youngblood Gregory, and Bell Pitkin, who picked up this project and has just done it with so much love and care over the past few years. Bell is an extraordinarily talented artist, organizer, advocate for lesbians and lesbian art. And it is an incredible pleasure to work with Bell on this project. Those of you who know me know I know nothing at all about art. I love art. I love looking at it. I love going to art museums and galleries. I love talking to artists, but I really have absolutely no visual sense. Belle has an inspired visual sense and brings us beautiful things. She's not only worked on the calendar, and this is Belle, I think this is your third calendar, but Belle also volunteers and helps us with lots of other visual things, including our annual birthday card, reaching out to artists, and just generally helping make Sinister Wisdom look more beautiful. So I'm incredibly grateful to Belle. Belle is also the curator of this evening's program, and I'm excited to turn things over to Belle shortly so that the program can move on. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. I think I said everything. Subscribe to Sinister Wisdom. Jules will put that link in the chat. Become a sustainer if you can make a monthly gift, and buy the calendar. And we'll put all of those links in the chat. You can do it while we're doing the events, all of that kind of stuff. And I will send you an email tomorrow acknowledging everything. So now, housekeeping notes. You're all muted. Please stay muted until we reach the end, where there'll be time for a question and answer. I invite you to show appreciation for people speaking by waving your hands, by using emojis, and by using the chat, which I see some people are already using. Sometimes some of the best things that are happening at Sinister Wisdom events are in the chat. If you need technical assistance, chat with Max or Jules. Both of them are on tap and will help you with any technical issues. We are, as you all heard at the top of the event, recording the event this evening. We'll make it available in the next few days at sinisterwisdom.org/calendar, as well as on our YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us this evening. And now I'm thrilled to bring the real superstar of our event front and center. Please join me in welcoming Bell Pitkin. Bell.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join me and all of these fabulous artists and Sinister Wisdom people here to celebrate the launch of the 2025 calendar from Sinister Wisdom, Out Dykes Outside. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Belle. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a photographer, an artist, and a curator from North Carolina, currently based in Boston. Julie, thank you so much for that truly generous introduction. I'm blushing, honestly. It's truly such an honor getting to be a part of the community and getting to work on projects like these with such fabulously, brilliantly talented artists and people. I first became involved with Sinister Wisdom in 2021 after I submitted my own art to the journal for publication. A year later, I became an intern, and since then, I've remained a part of this community, working to uplift the voices and visions of lesbian artists everywhere. As an artist myself, celebrating the diversity and beauty of lesbian art across all mediums is something incredibly important to me. This is why I was so thrilled when Julie asked if I'd be interested in curating the calendar in 2024, and I was quite pleased when she thought I did a good job and wanted me back for 2025. Immediately, I knew that I wanted to use the calendar as a platform to showcase the incredible work being produced by so many contemporary lesbian artists. This calendar specifically takes inspiration from past issues of Sinister Wisdom, like Sinister Wisdom 63, Lesbians in Nature, and Sinister Wisdom 77, Environmental Concerns. The calendar explores the unique relationships we as lesbians and queer people share with the earth. The calendar specifically questions the profound connections we share with the rivers, the oceans, mountains, and deserts of our planet, with the animals and plants who share the natural world with us. It questions how we commune with nature, how the world affects us spiritually, creatively, and as a community, and questions how we're inspired to continue protecting and honoring the earth. Throughout the curatorial process, I was interested in bringing together artists from a range of backgrounds, experiences, mediums, and relationships with the natural world to respond to these questions. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to the artists who trusted me with their creations: Jillian Abir MacMaster, Vanny Aguilar, Alexa Alexides, Cass Arrington, Ria Artemisia, Pico del Iro Villa, Genevieve Kuzak, Len Keller, Josie Licavoli, Jenny Irene Miller, MJ Sanqui, Willa Smart, Alejandra Zamudio, and Zana. Each of these artists is so profoundly talented, and I cannot wait to see what's going to come next for them. Please make sure to spend time with their work, listen to their stories, and support them however you can. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of the calendar, which I think you should, you can do so at our website, sinisterwisdom.org/calendar, and a link should be dropped in the chat shortly. Now I'd like to take a moment to welcome our first artist to speak, Jillian Abir MacMaster. Jillian is a Palestinian-American photographic artist from Frederick, Maryland. She holds a BFA in photography from Shepherd University in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Welcome, Jillian.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, Belle, and thank you, everyone at Sinister Wisdom. And this is just such a cool thing to get an email about one day. So thank you so much for finding me and finding my work and asking me to take part. Yeah, so my name is Jillian. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in Frederick, Maryland, which is Piscataway land. And the work that I have here in the calendar, it's kind of funny because it's the work that is like everything else I do is pretty much portraiture, and the work that I have in the calendar is a picture of a tree and West Virginia peach tree. I made this photo a few years ago when I had first met my current partner, and we were both in a really big transitional part in our transitional stage phase in our lives, and so we would always be in West Virginia together. And so West Virginia, people might have a particular association with it. People living in West Virginia, especially queer people, may feel some way about it or not. And so this photo was really to showcase the beauty of rural queerness. You can go on to the next slide, please. My other work is mostly portraiture, like I said. This is a newer piece. So I was raised Catholic, like a lot of people who were raised Catholic might experience religious trauma. I am one of them. And so I wanted to sort of analyze my Catholic upbringing and Catholic symbols and ideas through my adult atheist queer lens. And so what I did with this in particular is I made a 6-piece cyanotype, almost life-size print of a female model. And I created painstakingly this rosary beaded curtain, which I actually have hanging next to me here in the window. And my idea was to, you can kind of see the image behind it, but you have to interact with this. You have to push the rosaries away in order to see the full image. And I'm with this series, it's taken me a while, but I'm slowly working on things, and it's a lot of mixed media cyanotype, stone pieces. So I'm trying to incorporate some mixed media into my photo work. Next slide, please. And through my portraiture, one of the series that I am working on long-term is a love and queer relationships examination through photography. And so I feel very lucky to have a large queer community, and and close friends that I've grown up with, and then suddenly one day, oh, we're all gay, great. And so some of those people are pictured here, others I've met more recently, but I always take them into either like their backyard or some space in nature. And we work together to sort of, I ask them to move in a way that feels natural to them. And the couple in the middle, they had their child with them. And so that added a whole lot to the movement of the images. And I just ask them to show me how empowered they feel when they are with their partner. And that is what I want to get through the picture. A lot of what I try to explore through my work is subversion of power balances, power imbalances. And so I'm trying to take these communities that throughout history, as you all know, have not been faced with kindness and giving them the power that they so deserve through the images. Next slide, please. And this is a continuation of that series. And I, like I said, most of the people I know are in my community, but I also had a plan to go to my local Pride festival and just kind of like throw these flyers around saying like, please come do this photo shoot with me. Here's what the deal is. And I've gotten a couple people, a couple groups of people that that met me through that. So next slide, please. And then the my other, I guess, most important series to me that I'm working on is a series of my my grandmother. The series is called Tata. In Arabic, it's Tata. Growing up, I said Tata, and it stuck. But this series started in 2017. I was living with her, and I felt like I was going through another transitional phase in my life, and I was having just a hard time emotionally and trying to figure out what I was doing in my life. And so I turned to photography as a way to cope. And so I just started making images of her and her small moments in her life and her daily routine. So all these images that are on the screen are more recent, but the photos that I started taking back then, very similar in theme to these. I noticed that orange pops up a lot, and I guess I don't know. I must have subconsciously picked these 4 very orange pictures to send to you, Belle. Technically, the one in the middle is one picture. It's a diptych, but orange comes up a lot. She seems to really love the color orange, and then the images in the middle, I called it olives and oranges. Olives and oranges are a very symbolic food in Palestinian culture. And then I saw the olives in her eyes, and I saw the oranges on the sunset on her face. And so those 2 images I always pair together. And it's just a very special, pairing. And I said that I do portraits, and I consider the picture of the fruit to be a portrait of her as well. And on the left, the image of her at another sunset, just at the end of the day, just observing these quiet moments. It was really an opportunity for us to bond. And so, yeah. And so that's the photography that I've been working on. And I think that might be the slides that I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jillian. That was beautiful, and I loved getting to hear more about your work. Next, I'd like to invite Jen Kuzak up to speak. Jen's work explores, by the way of erotic offerings, the capacity of the category of butchness. He offers, through vivid and tactile videography and photography, windows into butch sexuality, delicate butch feelings, and the generative slippage that occurs between the butch boy, the twink, the T-boy, and more. Using imagery from the realm of internet porn and Tumblr aesthetics, he not only offers preview into the private lives of butches, but also brings together a complex cast of characters to depict queer liberation in its most intimate settings. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, my name is Jen. I am a photographer and video artist, and I usually make work about dyke sexuality and butch identity. And yeah, so I guess we can start the slideshow. Is this the first picture? Okay, so this is my friend Leo. He really likes horses, and this is in the calendar, and this is around the farm where his horse lives. And I wanted to take this picture with him because my photos are very focused on fantasy, and he has kind of cultivated his own fantasy in a way because he just loves being around animals. And he used to live in New York, and he was a photographer in New York, but he hated it so much that he now lives in New Jersey and he just works with horses. So yeah, and then we can go into the next slide. That's my friend Riley and Coco, and I want to take pictures of them because they're an iconic couple. And I don't know, this picture is really cute because it's very heavy. I feel like they just look really they're just really in love. So I wanted to evoke that in this picture, and I hope you can see that. And obviously they're like a lesbian couple, and yeah. Um, sorry, I don't know what else to say about this one, but you can go ahead. The picture on the left I took in Paris in 2022. That's at a queer bar called La Mutinerie, which means like the mutiny. And I don't know, this picture, I really like this picture because it's really cute. Like it's just like a random street scene, and but you can, I don't know, there's like a lot of emotion in that one. And that was the first time I went to Paris, and I'm in Paris right now, so that's cool. And the picture on the right is my friend Isabel and my friend AJ, and this was my Butch Femme Kawaii photo shoot, which is supposed to be Butch Femme aesthetics, but kind of like a new version of that. And it's supposed to look like manga, so I don't know if anybody here likes anime. But I wanted to do that with this one, and that's Isabel's house, and it's like a fairy tale. So you see this like common theme with my pictures where it's all like a fantasy. So, and yeah, we can go to the next one. That's my friend Paige. um they're I don't know, they're just cute, and I think that we kind of, you can see by their face in the picture that we kind of have, I feel like we have a flirty relationship. And so I was like, can you like pull your boxer briefs down? And they said yes. So we took a series of photos, and yeah, I like this picture because I feel like it's very straight to the point. Like it's just like Paige is just saying, I'm hot, and I'm saying you are hot as well. So yeah. So we can go to the next one. Okay, so the one on the left is also in Paris. That's my friend Noah. He's reading a book, and he's really cute. He's like a writer, and he's also like a trans guy, but he also calls himself a lesbian. And I was like, I relate, bro. And so he's really cool. That was in his apartment, and there's a lot of light. And I really like this picture because he looks really cute, but it feels like, once again, it's like this like boyfriend fantasy. And then the picture on the right is my friend Lily. He's a barber. Um, I feel like this one, he kind of looks like he would be in a boy band. So I I wanted to do 90s lighting, which it's kind of blue, you can see in this one. And I really like this picture because he just looks really intense, and like there's just, his face is like so much. And so I feel like I captured that here in that one. Yeah, you can go ahead. There's Leo again with his horse. His horse's name is Kip, and I don't know. He's like I feel like he's kind of antisocial, but it's really cute because he just needs animals. Like he doesn't really need a lot of people. It's just like, and I feel like in these pictures you can kind of feel that because he's just, I don't know, he just loves his horse. So yeah, so we can advance. Okay, so the one on the left is my friend Manny, and the one on the right is my friend Devin. And I want to do these pictures because I feel like these are kind of cool because like Manny, I feel like he like identifies as a trans man, but all of his friends are dykes, which relate. And then the person on the right is Devin, who I think he more identifies as a dyke, but I feel like this picture is really cool because it's kind of its own space. Like it's kind of like this mask for mask vibe that's like kind of its own thing that exists outside of that, and they both vibe together there because you know that space is very undocumented, but I'm trying to document it. But in this series was really cool for me because it was like, okay, this is just like pure mask for mask, you know. Yeah, and we can advance if there's one more. I don't remember. Oh, okay, cool. So picture on the left is also in Paris, and then that's my friend Ilios, who is an actor. He's very cool. He was actually in oh my God. I don't know if anybody here knows who Paul Preciado is, but he made a movie called Orlando, and Ilios was in that movie. And then the picture on the right is my friend Azakai, who is really cute. And I just wanted to do this lighting that looks kind of angelic. It's like kind of like hitting him right on the face, and then you have the blue in the background, and yeah, he's I don't know. He's really wonderful too, and he's just really nice and sensitive. So I wanted to show that. So yeah, I feel like that's all. I don't know if there's any more.
Thank you, Jen. Such beautiful portraits. Let's hear from our next speaker, MJ Sanqui. MJ is a Filipino artist, writer, and designer from Western North Carolina, currently living in Providence, Rhode Island. Their practice fluidly incorporates print, paper, photography, text, and the book form to explore the interactions of personal and collective histories, rural ecologies, and remediated archives. They are a former resident and current member of the Binge Press Queer Archive Work Studio, a co-organizer of the Queer and Trans Zine Fest, and a triple water sign. Welcome, MJ.
Hi, everybody. I'm MJ. Thank you to Sinister Wisdom for including me in the calendar this year and for inviting me to talk about my work. This is my piece that's in the calendar. It is not titled, but it is a large piece of paper that I made last summer or 2 summers ago out of a lot of scraps from various print and book projects, some fibers like abaca and flax and cotton, and some scraps from a project that a friend donated me, my friend Tycho. She had made this book to commemorate her grandfather who had passed last year. And she's an amazing risograph printer. She was like my mentor. She's still my mentor, but she's been my mentor for the last few years in like the realm of Riso publishing and graphic design. And she made this really beautiful book for her grandfather's memorial and then gave me the scraps. And so the color and like kind of chunks of paper and print you can see in this piece are the pieces that come from that that project that she gave me the offcuts from. Yeah, and so a lot of my practice right now in paper is largely thinking about paper as a material that I have worked with for a long time as a printmaker and photographer, book artist. There's a lot of paper that is involved with all those processes and also a lot of waste. And I am really liking paper as a way to create more of like a cyclical process with all of those things. Yeah, we can move to the next slide. So yeah, a lot of my background is in book related and photo related work. So thinking a lot about experimental publishing, and now that I'm making paper, thinking about like paper as material in experimental publishing. And so the piece on the left is kind of me thinking through some of those things. The image, or like the sort of collage that's on there, is a gel transfer image of a collage that I made for a book that I published a few years ago, along with like a paper blowout, which is like a technique of making shapes and forms with really, really fine beaten paper fibers. And so this is like an early iteration of me thinking through like how paper can be more than just like the substrate that prints go onto, and how can paper become more of like the art object and be more involved in like the book form instead of just being sort of like the thing that stuff goes on. And then this other piece on the right is some of my more recent paper work. I've been experimenting a lot with paper kind of as a painting technique. Thinking a lot about surface. Again, still working with scraps. This piece is also a really large piece that incorporates a lot of scraps and offcuts from past print projects, some fibers, some found materials, and it's also some of the first work that I've been making in paper that's dimensional. So I let it dry unrestrained, and it's kind of like wavy and wrinkly. And so when you look at it, it has a bunch of different forms, kind of landscape-like. I'm from Western North Carolina. I'm currently in Providence, but I grew up in the mountains, so I feel the presence of the mountains in a lot of my work. We can go to the next slide. So this is more work from when I was really thinking through how paper can be a part of the publishing process, pulling from images from my archive, from my friends' archives, thinking about text and thinking about how, again, the paper can be an object and the paper itself can be sort of like its own book form. These are also involving the gel transfer process, where you're pulling the pigment of the ink from digitally printed images, and they turn into this kind of like transparent film that has your image on it, and you can move it onto your piece of paper while it's wet, and then they kind of dry as one incorporated surface. And this is also using a technique called pulp painting, where you use that really, really fine pulp, and I was kind of trying to use it as a writing tool. We can go to the next slide. So my more recent work is thinking a lot about paper even more as an object and not as much as like a publishing tool, even though I'm definitely still thinking in the realm of books and paper. This past year, I started experimenting a lot with dimensional paper forms, and thinking a lot about waste beyond just like waste that is made when you're an artist, but also just like trash that you find in the world. I like am always collecting trash. I have so much rope and plastic and cement and paint and things that I have pulled from places that I go all the time. And so this piece, which is kind of an ongoing piece, a variable installation called Sedimentary Lead. And it is a bunch of paper incorporating found objects, past pieces of print work that I've done, and also scraps of like the pieces of walls peeling off of the old industrial buildings in the area where my studio is and where the bench press clerk I've worked print shop is, here on the west end of Providence. Me and one of my friends went around and like collected a bunch of these like pieces of composite cement and like lead paint layers. And while we were on this walk, we had this really great conversation sort of about sediment and waste and remnants of things, and like how things end up places they shouldn't be or never were supposed to be. And I don't know, I think a lot about trash as a way of thinking about migration, displacement, and as an immigrant artist, I'm also thinking a lot about like what it means to end up in a place you never expected, and thinking about sort of like the pathways that things and people take, especially through the global influences and global movements of capitalism. Yeah, and this piece is actually part of a group show that I did with a bunch of beloved friends this summer called Tangled Stream, where we put together a bunch of sort of like in progress things that we were working on, finished things, past things that were very much in conversation, because this is a group of friends and artists who I work with, who are all kind of thinking about these ideas of sediment and remnants, and also working with the environment, thinking about like different types of ecologies. I have a friend who's thinking a lot about like the idea of invasiveness when it comes to plants, like being invasive versus being introduced, and also that idea of kind of like migration and how certain things end up in certain places. Yeah, and so this piece is part of that show that we did. You can go to the next slide. This is more work from that same show. This is a past piece that I'd made on the left, this painting. This was installed like right underneath the last piece, under those pieces of paper. As we were putting the show together, it came together very, not necessarily last minute, but it came together very spontaneously because we had a lot of things kind of change up about where it was going to be and what was going to happen when we did it. But it was just really like amazing process of getting to be with people whose work I really love and people who I really love, who I feel like even though we're not necessarily making our work together, I feel like in constant collaboration with these people because we are always talking about these ideas and talking about the things we want to make. And I feel like they always get me really excited about different processes and different work that's being made. And so I was we were installing this show together the day of. We had like brought all of our pieces to my friend Haley's house, and as we were kind of looking at everything together, I had brought this painting thinking like maybe I'll put a painting up, and kind of saw the conversation between this work and the paperwork. Given that I come from a photography and printmaking kind of like books background, I have thought a lot about how we communicate ideas of identity and identity construction through language and through image. And so when I started making paper, I really took a turn to working more abstractly because I think being a brown queer immigrant person, there's kind of a lot of pressure to make work that speaks to those experiences of identity and like how those identities are constructed. And I think turning to abstraction gave me a way of still thinking through those ideas, but not feeling like I'm cannibalizing or like extracting these experiences to turn into work to give to audiences who maybe I don't actually want to offer all these things so preciously and so vulnerably. So yeah, a lot of my abstract work feels connected to my publishing practice, but has been sort of a different avenue of making work and thinking through these things without having to feel the pressure of being very legible. And then so the piece on the right is another part of that installation with the tiny pieces of paper. This is like a small like lump of paper pulp with a shattered mirror shard in it. This is a mirror that I've been carrying around for a long time that me and my friend Haley broke together. And is just another like object that is thinking through ideas of remnants and sediment. And we can go to the next slide. And then this is another piece from that show. This is an installation also between me and my friend Haley. I didn't realize how much of this work is collaborations between me and Haley, but a lot of my work is collaborations with Haley. Haley is in the audience right now as well. But we put together this installation of some of my paperwork, some found objects, some of Haley's photos. And so something that we've been thinking a lot about, again, in line of like how paper can be part of like a book form and experimental forms of publishing, and like when is a book, does it have to be like in this kind of like hand form, or can it be sort of in these spatial arrangements, spatial installations? And so this is kind of like an early idea or an early rendition of this idea that we've had together about like what a book container can really be like. And so this was like installed in that show in like a little corner of Haley's house. And so yeah, a lot of my practice right now is like thinking through paper and thinking a little bit through like textiles and weaving, and exploring how material can have meaning beyond just being like substrate and container. But then I'm coming back to photo as an element that I can weave into all that, kind of coming back to ideas of experimental publishing through this different medium. Yeah, I think that's my last slide. Thanks for listening to me talk.
Thank you, MJ. That was so wonderful getting to hear about how interdisciplinary and interlapping your practice is. I'm excited to talk more about it during our convo at the end of this. Let's hear first, though, from our last speaker, Cass Arrington. Cass is a 23-year-old non-binary multimedia artist based in and from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a BA in Ethnicity, Race, and Migration Studies from Yale College. Arrington's artwork is primarily lens-based and centers intimacy, wilderness, wonder, and transience of queer and Black coming of age. In addition to photography, poetry is an important artistic outlet for Arrington, guiding their involvement in the Philly youth poetry movement, Brave New Voices International Poetry Festival, Yale University Art Gallery, and word performance poetry at Yale. In 2024, Arrington became a resident artist at the Tilt Institute for Contemporary Image and the Painted Bride Art Center. Currently, Arrington is pursuing a largely diaristic body of work, contending at once with the solitude and need for connection, with grief and grace, and with hope. Welcome, Cass.
Thank you so much, Belle, for coming across my pictures, and thank everyone here for just lending me your attention. Yeah, sort of following the vein of that introduction, this works I made, this picture that I have in the calendar, I made sort of at the onset, the very early end of a time when I started to have a more diaristic relationship to my camera. This is a portrait of really a portrait of some live oaks in Louisiana, because they have this very magnetic quality, the trees in the landscape in the South, but specifically Louisiana. It was very heartwarming to be about to leave this place that I'd been there for the first time, but to at least on my way away, to sort of steal this picture of my friends, just all of us enjoying the landscape. So yeah, that's sort of the background of this picture. You'd go to the next slide. These pictures and really everything else from the slideshow are just pictures I made the past year. I kind of told myself when I graduated college, I would start making pictures just with medium format cameras and force myself to be as quick with a medium format camera that I was learning to be with a 35mm camera, but that never really happened. In fact, I think this past year taught me to slow down and maybe notice intimacy in more abstract ways, intimacy that occurs in nature, intimacy in the way that like ecosystems and habitats coexist, and the quiet of those spaces, and a lot of like very human traits that come out of those spaces. And when I was making this work, I felt like in my quiet time, I noticed something that just felt very human. Like the picture on the left, to me, felt very sexual. It's just moss. I don't know. I like touching moss. I feel like most people like touching moss, but it just felt very sexual. And then you could go to the next slide, actually. This is sort of very sleepy. And a lot of these pictures, the past two, as well as this one, I made in Portugal with my best friend, Miranda. She had never left the country without family, and had never been to Europe or anything. So I went with her on like her first kind of sojourn to Europe, and we visited a few of my friends in Portugal, and we just hiked, really. We just wanted to be outside. And yeah, these are some of those pictures. You can go to the next slide. This is Miranda. And again, I've just started to think about more outdoors, at least this year. And also without there always being two people in a frame, where intimacy still is. This is just me like stealing a picture of her napping on the train, and her about to like chicken out as I was like asking her to like climb one of the big rocks that they have on the beaches in Portugal and probably other places in Europe too. But and yeah, again, when I saw this, I was like, wait, stay there. She's like risking her life right now. I have climbing shoes on in this picture. She has on like nothing, raw. But I'm like, can you stay there? And just because I saw this and it felt like very like sexual and sensual, and I was like, that's surprising. And also just I felt like very like transient, and felt like I would want to remember it, which is usually what I'm doing when I'm taking pictures, just trying to remember. You can go to the next slide. And then when I came back, so a lot of these pictures are from the summer and spring of 2024. In the spring of 2024, I had top surgery, and then the summer I was kind of like out of the first portion of my recovery period, and then sort of the last end of the summer, I had this space through a residency I was doing in West Philly, and I was like, let me just reach out to some gay people and let's make some pictures. And so that's what I did. In fall of 2023, I was picking up furniture for my apartment, and I had to walk through this big parking lot to get there to the warehouse. And I was like, I need to come back here at some point and make some pictures here. And then in June of 2024, I met Clover, who's imaged here, at another event I was photographing, and they were just like so striking to me, and so calm, like energy wise. They felt very like earthy and nonchalant. And when they signed up to like have some portraits with me, I was like, okay, let's go to this parking lot and just talk and hang out and smoke and see what happens. And it was really fun doing these types of portrait sessions. You can go to the next slide. So I met a lot of very interesting queer people, and just got to talk to them. And a lot of what I've been dealing with this year post-grad has been like feeling alone and feeling displaced, and just so many strange emotions, be like suddenly being in this place where many of my closest friends were in very distant places. And also that I felt myself changing rapidly, not just like going through my own like gender journey, but realizing the true gulf of like my worldview and my politics and my passions between the communities I had been a part of before. So I think these portrait sessions just kind of gave me heart that like my community is still ahead of me. And if I just keep on that path, like I will find whatever I'm looking for, and I also be building that within myself all the time. So you can go to the next slide. And a lot of what I did, sort of on the same note of just being alone and back in my home city for a year, was start to think about my body and like my own lived experience, and also the fact that I feel very much like frustrated all the time by being a subject of capitalism. I was talking to like a former boss of mine earlier today, and explaining like work issues, and he was like, yeah, I remember when I was your age and I was encountering what you're encountering for the first time, which is power. And that was so resonant, and I was like, does everyone have this moment of encountering power and then not thinking like, how can I break this? Like, why is it like this? So I just like, I don't know, I've been thinking about that a bit in my street photography, or in some of my self-portraits, and work writing as well. Just like how the world is so much different than when I was a kid, and it feels jarring to me, but it's also so banal at the same time. You can go to the next slide. And then yeah, also just like going back to my older interest of just enjoying capturing intimate moments of like Black communities, queer communities, places I'm from. And something that was super resonant in MJ's discussion is like trying to protect your subjects as much as you can. And I've been thinking about that in relation to a lot of other photographers as well. And just trying to like obscure as much as you can, not always giving away someone's face, and all of their features and things like that. We can go to the next slide. So yeah, and then the rest of my work has been mostly about solitude. And sometimes that is very freeing. And sometimes it's a little bit isolating. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. These were just portraits I made during the 2 weeks after I had top surgery. I was very alone for most of that period. My best friend Miranda's in this picture and is who brought me to the hospital, but then most of my recovery I was just sort of alone. You can go to my next slide. So I kind of just used my camera to like keep me company as I was going through all the motions and the grief, like a lot of sadness from that period. Just and discovery, like curiosity, like it was a weird mix, honestly. Next slide, please. Yeah, much of the same, just exploring through self-portraiture. I think there might be like one other slide. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys.
Thank you so much, Cass. It's always such a pleasure to get to hear you talk about your work, and I am just so blown away by the powerful nature of your self-portraiture. It's so cool getting to see you work on that. Thank you all to all of the artists for sharing your work. Now I have one question prepared, and then audience members, please feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. We'll have an opportunity to sort of answer them after we tackle this first question, which by coincidence, you are all artists who work with print media, photography, papermaking, mediums like that. I'm wondering sort of maybe what draws you to those mediums and how you use them to explore sort of the questions we've been discussing throughout this artist talk and with the calendar as well.
I would say the calendar is about the land. So I feel like with photography, you can make your own universe and like world around you, which is what I do. I feel like mine sometimes is naturalistic, but I'm also like injecting a lot of fantasy in there. So yeah, I'm kind of drawn to making my own movie of my life or something.
Would any other artists like to share?
I could talk about I think like when I think about photography, I think I'm usually approaching every medium and from the place of like poetry, because that's sort of like the thing I've been practicing for the longest. And I think for a long time writing poems, I was interested in images and didn't know that I was. And then I like dropped my phone down a sewage actually in like 2020. Yeah, 2020. It was the end of my first year of college, and I was like, dang, I lost a lot of pictures from my first year of college. So then I picked up photography because it felt more permanent and it felt more physical. And so it was sort of just like me losing my phone and also a genuine interest in images that led me to photography. Yeah.
I don't know if I have too much to add, but photography for me, it was always the thing that just like stuck the most with me. And every day I surprise myself that I even like have still stuck with using a camera. But I feel like using cyanotype, which is, for those who don't know what cyanotype is, it's a chemical process, the sun printing process. And it was originally used to document botany findings. And I think using, like, doing the cyanotype process is such a you're so physically involved with it. It's a really nice refresher away from mostly digital, which is what I do. And just being able to sort of throw your physical self into it. You're dealing a lot with water, and you're just very involved with the materials, which is something that I, growing up with learning how to do photography, was not very involved with. And so I feel like maybe MJ could also relate to working with like wet paper and just kind of dealing with all the wetness of the paper. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but you're throwing your whole self into that.
I also have worked a lot with cyanotype. One of my like favorite print. Well, I think it's interesting to be somebody who has been called a printmaker a lot because I've been doing book work, when I only really think print speaks to me in the service of things like printing photos and like making books. I'm not really a printmaker. I'm not really like a technical printmaker or anything. So when I was first learning photography, I was taking like an alternative processes class at the same time as like a photo basics class, and got really into cyanotypes, and I was really liking the like material aspect of cyanotype, where like like you get to see the whole process unfold and you get to be part of like every part of the process, versus like when you're working digitally and you're printing digitally, sometimes you can just kind of like send a file off and like not touch it ever again, and suddenly you have like your final product. Versus with cyanotype, like you do have to, you can mix the chemicals yourself, you could make the paper yourself if you wanted, and like you're really involved in that. So I think like cyanotype made sort of the bridge between when I was thinking more about photos and images and now thinking about like paper and material.
Thank you so much. We got a question in the chat about the differences between art that maybe you guys are making for yourselves and then art that's to be encountered by a different audience. We're running a little bit out of time, but if anyone had any brief thoughts, I'd love to maybe hear about that.
I would say that most of my art is just made for my, like, I mean, you could say community, like, but it's just people that want intense queer images, and that's just what it's for. And I have trouble in institutional settings, because I can't talk about it very well, and I didn't go to art school. So I have had a solo show, which was fine, but I would say that work in this feels better for me because I have a lot of, in this kind of setting for like a calendar, feels better for me because I have a lot of trouble trying to place it in a more formal context, because it's really just made to give the people what they want. That's pretty much it.
I would just say like pretty much all my pictures, I would say they're for me, yeah, just to remember. But I heard someone, Orion's son, the musicians, like speak about like art practice as like giving something for the archive, and I think that does encapsulate how I think about my work. And honestly, I'm really bad at sharing my work, so it really just goes into the archive and it's for the archive.
Y'all, thank you so much. This is fascinating. I could sit and listen to you all talk all night and look at the incredible images. I want to thank Jen and Jillian and MJ and Cass and Bell. This has been really fantastic. It is my job, though, to call us to the end. I have just a couple announcements, and then we will have our song. Next week at this same time, we have our Night of 1,000 Lesbian, Feminist, Queer Stars, where people will be doing readings and offering thoughts to help us think about resistance and persistence as we move forward. In addition, we're doing a special event live and in person in Seattle on Thursday night. If you're around, check our website. And if you're in Seattle, please join us. Sunday afternoon, Sinister Wisdom is hosting an event at Fabulosa Books in San Francisco. And our online auction fundraiser just launched this morning please check out the Give Butter site. There's lots of amazing auction items to be purchased, and one has already been purchased at the buy it now price. We were all thrilled. It happened about 15 minutes after the auction opened. The Sinister Wisdom Fundraising Committee has been working very hard on these forthcoming events and the auction as a fundraiser for the organization. Again, thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Bell. Please please order the calendar and share it with your friends. We're so happy to have it. And now we have our final song, The L Word, by songwriter Carol Kramer, performed by Your Girlfriend, and produced by Esther Records. As you listen to the music, you can stand up, dance, and we'll highlight videos. When the music ends, I end the Zoom call. Thank you for joining us. And now, Max, let the dancing begin.